Oh, fuck. Turn it up. This is my favorite goddamn song.
Bounce, bounce, pass. Sports. Pass, kick, pass. Dunk it.
What?
Funk it. Sure. Serve it. Here. Work it.
Yeah,
Welcome to Jocular,
to
the show where three best friends to talk about
Women's sports. Oh, baby.
I'm Katie Kershaw, she, her.
more like Katie Cutshaw.
Yeah.
Because Katie got a haircut and she looks
fucking
amazing.
Thank you. It was kind
so
of a big chop. I've not had my hair this short in a long time.
That's really
It looks awesome.
Thank you.
My name is Tien Tran, she, her. I still have the same layers that I've had for several years now.
Well, it's a classic look.
But you know what I'll say? As
you.
I was watching Mr. Throwback, I thought it looked a little bit shorter.
It looked a little bit shorter, and she gave me a middle part, and it really changed my entire...
Mr. Throwback is so good.
Oh, thank you.
I watched it all in one day. You were so phenomenal in
Katie,
it.
thank
And
you.
I go to Peacock and watch it. And while you're there, watch Killing It Season 2.
Yes!
Did you feel changed by the middle part?
I felt like a completely different person.
Really?
The middle part, I felt like I was in drag.
That's
In a positive way?
hilarious.
I did not feel like myself. Something about seeing like the top of my forehead
I understand.
is really jarring to me. Like I don't think my head should be seen that much.
Well, that's why mine
You know
is
what I
covered
mean?
now. Yeah.
Sometimes when I was shooting Grays, they would like comb my hair. And I don't really brush my hair.
Okay,
I
yes.
know. Like and there's just a small thing. And
It's
I
not
would
a small thing though.
It's not.
Yeah,
Because then I would
it's not
look at
small.
it so straight and I'd be like, who, specifically my nightmare, who's this girl?
Yes, that
Who
is
is
what.
this fucking girl?
You also know, I will say this about not many people in my life. You know your hair better than anyone. Like, you know exactly the cut.
Yes,
You've always been that way.
Thank you.
You know exactly how it's going to lay, what it's going to do. You take risks with it.
Thank you. And I've been wrong.
You've been
and
wrong.
that's
Yeah.
that's how I know, because I was looking back at some photos recently. Also, ER5 Master, they them for me. I was looking back in some photos recently and I look like I'm wearing a fucking toupee. It was like I had shaved my
Stop
head and
it.
then it like came in like just on top and it looks like a toupee. So I've learned by trial by fire.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
the middle part on me, when I see it in the mirror, I imagine it's like how people, if they find out that they have like a long lost sibling via 23andMe, like that is
Wow.
how I felt when I looked at myself. I was like, oh my God, like my dad had another family. Like,
And where you, did
and
he,
it's me.
And it's
Yeah.
It's me.
were you excited to meet her?
No.
Sorry, I got lost in the metaphor.
No.
She's really straight.
She's really straight.
Uh-huh.
She's really straight. It's really weird.
Mhm.
Anyway, hi y'all. Olympics are over. How are we feeling?
It's so sad.
I feel purposeless in a
Yeah.
way.
Well, we've
True.
got the Paralympics coming up.
Also
That is
true.
fucking.
Okay,
I
that's-
just
I'm
remember
very
that
excited.
today, and I was like, "Oh, what a nice way to like avoid depression."
Yes.
We've got a whole nother Olympics coming.
With a trans athlete,
I saw
a trans woman.
in the in track and field, right?
I believe so.
Okay, very cool.
Um,
That's amazing.
I told you guys I wanted to talk about this ahead of time. I am obsessed with it. So Sarah Spain, our friend, who is also an excellent sports interviewer and reporter, told me that we have to talk about Kim Yeji, which, Katie, we have to give you the credit for. You knew about her
You did.
before we did.
But I didn't know her name.
And-
And I
You
didn't
did.
make you all say I knew it first.
No,
what are you talking
you
about?
did.
And she is the South Korean pistol shooter that every sapphic on the internet knows now,
Yes.
because she had those maybe the coolest stance, energy, affect of any person I've literally ever seen in my entire life. There are actors that are played exclusively. They're paid exclusively to be superheroes and supervillains. They pale in comparison to this bitch. She is my absolute king. And so we all start freaking out. All the sapphics start freaking out about Kim Yeji. And what happens is that men take to the internet and they start going, "You think she's cool? Look at all the gear she needs." The person you should really be praising is this Turkish male shooter who's just wearing a t-shirt and regular glasses. And you realize that anything that men are not involved in, because they didn't find her hot.
No.
Right? They didn't find her cool. And so they had to... It's not like they propped up like another cool dude shooter. They propped up the most kind of mid-average, no offense to him, average-looking man. And we're like, actually, this is the coolest a person can be. And they would say, he didn't try at all.
But because I think that is what they want.
For nothing to be expected.
For nothing to be expected, to not try at all, to look pretty mid, to show up in a t-shirt.
But it's also like, do you want to be in the same room with this clear, like, former assassin?
Yes.
Like, the guy is so good is because he's killed multiple people.
Wait, he was a former assassin?
He just has the vibe.
Okay.
But the thing, like, he walked up and he
No, I got it.
he wore, like, earplugs you wear when you sleep. Like, the man is, like, former military.
Okay.
He is... Like, you wouldn't survive next to him.
But I think the point in my brain had just been like, it was so unnecessary
unnecessary.
And to talk about him like he was a style icon is not accurate. Like it was a direct response to us finding a woman's outfit, affect, demeanor cool.
Right.
Her abilities cool, is they had to counter it with a mid-looking male and say, actually, he's even better than her.
I mean, I also feel like the male internet users hate powerful Asian women.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
And a powerful Asian woman with a gun.
Yeah.
It reminded me a bit of dad bod, where people are like, they confuse body positivity with the dad bod movement. No. The dad bod movement was an attack upon women, and let me explain how.
Yes.
After, I'm going to say, a million years of women's bodies being attacked, no matter what they look like, somehow it became a propaganda moment where we were all like, actually, the most mid-male body is the sexiest thing a person can have.
I mean, I think that's what is happening with Rat Boy Summer.
It is.
Like,
damn
all
it.
these fucking sewer creatures that are being lifted up as hot. Sorry, I'm upset. All these sewer creatures.
Pop off. These anemic-looking boys.
These anemic-looking boys who need a little sun and need a little hug and a little protein, are out here as the hot. Like, what? What are we doing?
They're not hot.
They're not hot.
No, not at all.
And they're cheating on their hot wives.
Why are all these mid-men cheating on their hot wives?
I don't understand.
Do you remember what Jay-Z did to Beyonce? I'm bringing it up.
Yeah.
What a mid-man.
What a mid-man.
I mean, my God.
Anyway, the Olympics was really fun.
The Olympics were really fun. There were a lot of mid-men.
But most of the medals won by Team USA, 65% of them are won by women.
Was. Oh!
God.
That Nike ad, I'm sorry. I don't want to fucking like rep any big brands, but that Nike ad saying like everybody else comes to the Olympics to fight for second, talking about the women's basketball team.
Oh, cool, yeah.
It did sound like chills down my spine. Like,
But also, I'm fine to talk about a big company if they want to sponsor us at Nike.
Yeah. That was I think we were all waiting for Mr. Nike to really answer us. Right?
Is he on the phone, Harry?
Is he on the phone?
No, I'm on hold with Mr.
You're
Nike.
on hold.
Okay. What were your favorite moments of the Olympics? Either watching, sport, someone new, hotties, whatever you want. What is it for you? Both.
So I was watching climbing.
Love.
And bouldering and lead is still combined.
Okay.
And there was an athlete from Japan, and she made it to the finals. But she is a little short, and she couldn't do the bouldering. Like, she didn't make it. She didn't make it past the first problem on most of them. Some she did okay with, but after 2 rounds, I watched both rounds, she really had a hard time on all 4 of them. And they just kept saying, she's a lead specialist. She's a lead specialist. So then I watched finals with ease.
Okay, that's
She went up this wall. And after me being so worried about her, and I'm like, how did you make it to finals? Oh my God, what's happening? With ease and with long pants. Just was like, and came in fourth.
Okay, that's cool.
That is fucking cool.
And bouldering and lead definitely need to be two separate sports. We do not need, or two different categories. Like, we don't need them to have to do both. Like, I would rather watch her dominate more in lead and more lead situations and problems than her have to do bouldering and be like, this sucks. If for 4 minutes I have
You're
to
saying
try.
like add a full ass other medal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what you're arguing for? I love that.
Yeah. I mean, if they separated the speed climbing, why not?
Yeah, why not?
It's so dumb.
Did you guys see the okay. My partner made this argument and I think it's good. We watched Breaking.
Yeah, same.
And there was the woman from Australia, the white woman from Australia.
Ray Gun.
And she did quite a mid job. And my partner pointed out, like, it must be so frustrating for people of color since Breaking came out of New York in the 1970s as like a response as a counterculture movement. That now Breaking is in the Olympics and still the only thing we're talking about is some mid-white woman.
Depressing.
Absolutely depressing.
How do I define breaking? Well, I can't really define it.
I guess I've got a background in contemporary dance and ballet, so I figured I know the kind of the main components.
I wanted to do it on my own, do something original. Like, the interviews with her are psychotic.
They do feel like a performance art. You said that.
I think it's a performance
It feels
art.
like a performance art.
I do think it's a joke.
Something is happening.
Something's wrong. When she was doing that, remember Molly the clown that would play the clock on the floor? Like, it was a kid's show.
Oh,
and
yes,
she would do the clock.
Yes.
Shit, this bitch full ass did that. And I was like, nah, wait,
She did
that's
the
a joke.
kangaroo.
She did the kangaroo.
That's a joke.
She did the kangaroo.
That's not
Kangaroo.
real.
I don't know. How do I define breaking?
What do I do? I really can't do the Australian accent. It's really hard for me. I don't know if
I don't know.
I don't know.
I just don't know
don't
if I could
know.
do it.
I think it's wrong to let her be breaking like that.
I think you got closer at the end,
know.
and so I'm gonna create an environment where you feel safe enough to try that more often.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, I love the women's gold medal soccer game.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
It's so good. It's so good. I love them. It's okay. Honestly, I was obsessed with the U.S. women's national team.
Yes.
It was
As I
amazing
always
to
am,
watch them.
and they fucking nobody expected. No, people. Their expectation was for them to just make it to a medal game,
Mm-hmm.
and they fucking won the whole thing with my personal hottie of the Olympics. Emma Hayes.
Emma Hayes is a hottie.
Emma Hayes is a hottie. I love her whole vibe, like a daddy hottie.
Yeah.
She is
Like
daddy hottie.
She's daddy hottie. Like, she can coach me. I would love to be coached by her because she's just like so cool, so funny.
Audience, we were talking about the difference between like hotties that you need to date and hotties who you just feel are daddy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's
And Emma Hayes is
daddy hottie.
daddy hottie.
Daddy hottie.
That like is a leader, is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Watching them win was just like the most satisfying thing I've seen in a while.
I felt happy for you when I was watching because you're one of the only people I know that looks good in the soccer jerseys.
Yeah.
And so when I was watching the game and their jerseys were beautiful, I texted the group and was like, Tian.
No, they did text me. I felt very seen.
Yeah, I mean, you have to get that. Like, the little tie-dye effect at the bottom of these things, it was absolutely gorgeous. Looking like a fucking Kool-Aid ad. Like, finally! Can you imagine if they had been like the current ones that they have in the league, which are just like the Tampa
arcade,
floor
arcade
carpet. Rodman. Okay.
Hottie.
One
Hottie,
of the
triple espresso.
highlights of the Olympics for me was cooling time in the women's
in the games?
soccer game, and because it was so fucking hot out, and they had to go to the side and put towels on the ladies, and I am sorry if we meet and you've seen this, but when Rodman came over to the side and lifted up her jersey to wipe the sweat off her face and just kind of kept it there because on account of how hot and sweaty she was, and everything was so hard and so muscular and so strong, I realized then that I would make an incredible footstool.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you auditioned for
Yes.
that role,
I
right?
did. I did not get it, but I think it was my self-tape partner's fault.
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah.
It's always the reader's fault.
Because they were reading too loud.
Yeah, always the reader's fault.
Always reading too loud.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. Anytime any of our U.S. women teams, like across all sports, won and celebrated, the way I wanted to be in on that celebration.
I know. I know, Tia.
The way I wanted to go up there and like jump in on a hug.
I know.
And then they would toss you around.
And they would toss me around.
I am so worried about you sometimes that like the biggest fantasy for you is always to be included in the big hug.
I want the big hug. I want to be included in the big hug.
I mean, the three of us have never hugged at the same time. And I think mainly it's because it's not big enough.
No, I need like 5 more people.
For some reason, I feel like this is a group that might never touch.
No, we don't.
I think we've had this much time together where we're like separated by somehow 4 feet of space.
Yeah.
That to breach that,
I can't do it.
I don't think I could do it either.
I don't think I could do that.
No.
But if the 3 of us were to happen upon a team that was celebrating,
We could hug them.
then we could hug them and by proxy would be hugging each other.
We would.
Yo.
Now think about that.
Another fucking big moments in the Olympics was, and I know I'm not supposed to feel this way as an American, but I was watching the USA women play Italy in the gold medal volleyball game, and Italy won the first gold medal ever for the country of Italy was won by the women's volleyball team.
Damn.
Wait, that's so cool.
It was so exciting.
Okay,
it was
that's very
like,
cool.
and the little guy coach jumped on the other little guy, which I thought was so fucking cute, like straddled his waist, which I was like, literally only the Italians would do that. If you did that in America, they would like shoot you down and they'd be like, you are gay.
Yes.
You're not allowed to coach anymore because you're gay and bad. But the Italians, beautiful. And I am going to add to my hotties list Jordan Thompson, University of Cincinnati graduate. And Catherine Plummer, I'm going to add as one of my daddy hotties.
That's a good one.
Yeah, just absolute daddy energy. Whenever she was on the court, I felt so taken care of, I stopped talking, which doesn't happen a lot for me.
Oh, Plumber, the power that you have through the screen.
Plumber, come clear out these pipes.
Katie, do you have any other hotties? Daddy hotties? Hottie hotties?
I would think I mainly have like regular hotties. I've got Tara Woodall.
Oh my God, she's Tara Davis Woodall.
Tara Davis. Her husband's name is Hunter Woodall. Tara Davis Woodall. Honestly, I would say my hotties are them as a couple.
I completely agree.
She's a long jumper. He's a Paralympian medalist in track. They're so cute together and they're so gorgeous. I just want to be hugged by them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would love to be hugged by them.
He is so supportive that it's lesbian coded. Like
it is.
Yes.
A lot of the track husbands are like that.
Okay, so if all straight couples were like this track husband, I would consider supporting the heterosexual lifestyle.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
Consider.
I would not support the heterosexual lifestyle, but I would support them as human beings this once.
This one time.
This one time.
Yes, this one time.
This one time. If they were all like that.
It seems so earnest. You know that like recent thing where that man was like threw his children in front of his wife who was about to win a marathon, and he like this dad. It was like not at the Olympics, but it went viral because this dad, right before his wife crossed the finish line, threw his like 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and 6-year-old onto the course so they could block their mom from winning. And everyone was like, what the fuck? Like it just registered to everyone as such like you wanted to slow her down. And he was like, no, I was just helping her celebrate. This was the opposite of that.
Yeah.
These track husbands seem so genuinely like they're fans of their track
and they
wives.
should be.
It's fucking hot.
It's so hot. I remember a reporter interviewing was like, are you nervous for the match? And he was like, if Sydney's not nervous, then I'm not nervous. I follow her lead. It was like, God.
Oh my God.
Bless America.
These men that I love stand beside her.
You had a hard time saying these men that I love.
Yeah.
I didn't even think you said that I love.
That it's going to be hard. Men that I gun to my head.
But the gun is being held by Kim Ye-ji.
And then
There
that's
we go.
fine.
Yeah.
And then that's fine. Can we do a special hottie shout out to Suni Lee?
Yes.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Obviously also Simone Biles, but just Suni Lee's story of like she came back from like a debilitating kidney disease.
Yes.
And they didn't think she was going to ever perform.
And her lip gloss was perfect the entire time.
That gymnastics team, every single one of them, Simone,
all
Jordan,
hotties.
all hotties.
All hotties.
All track and field, all
All
hotties.
hotties.
Like,
All of
4x400 team.
Jesus Christ.
there's a conversation happening about the face card for the track and field folks specifically, and it's true. This is some of the hotter people I've ever seen in my life.
100%.
Like drawings of people.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the hot, like unbelievably hot.
Can you imagine being ugly on that team?
No, I would drop out.
Would not. I would run blindfolded.
Yeah.
Devastating.
Devastate.
I would run blindfolded so I didn't have to see myself. That's how little I know about running, first of all. I'm assuming that you're looking at yourself the whole time.
Yeah, you are.
That's what you're running. You're running towards yourself.
Running towards yourself.
Right.
It's kind of like
Into a
dog races where
Yeah.
they have a rabbit. They just put like your headshot in front of you, and you're just running along.
Oh, sorry. Another moment that I have to mention is that Gabby Williams moment. Gabby Williams was a former UConn player that also was drafted by the Sky and then went and played overseas, and she's now playing for France. And she was playing the women's basketball team, our women, and France versus USA. USA won by 1 point.
Oh,
1 point
God.
for the gold, which of course I'm happy about. But it was a Gabby Williams. Her toe was on the line.
A hot toe.
So it would have been that 1 point differential was if her toe was not on that line. And I'm going to be thinking about that 1 point and her disappointment for the rest of my life. But she is straight up maybe my hottie of the games.
She's really attractive.
She's really, really attractive.
She's really
Swag.
Hottie of the game. Oh my God, that's so hard.
I mean, Yeji, to be fair, Yeji is my hottie of the games. Like,
Yeah,
I actually
for
think
sure.
that's the coolest person I've ever seen. But like, Gabby Williams felt a little bit to me like not like a trans mask brother where I was like, bro, you are killing it. Like, there was such there was a fucking cool guy energy to Gabby that I found hot about her.
I also say, I mean, hottie daddy would be BG. Like
Hottie
just
daddy.
Pops.
You're talking about Pops.
Yeah.
Pops. Yeah,
So hottie daddy.
Yeah.
Also a wonderful story. Ugh.
absolutely. Also, Nonaka Miho from Japan's climbing team, one of the hottest people you will
Really?
ever see.
Why
I'll pull up a
are
picture.
do you think we have science behind why the Olympians are all so hot?
It couldn't have to do with the fact that probably none of them drink, they get sleep, and
No, don't say stuff like
No.
that, Katie, because we all drink
not that.
and we don't sleep. And so
Yeah.
how are we hot?
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
And how are we also Olympians?
We are.
We are.
Well, are we not?
No, Harry told us to wrap up.
Hey,
And
we have to take a break.
Harry's telling us
We
to
could go on.
fucking wrap
We could go
up.
on
Literally the
about the babes.
Olympics.
But we have such a nice guest to get to.
Oh, that's
do.
true. Okay,
Yeah.
you're right.
we have the gorgeous,
Absolutely gorgeous.
physically and intellectually, Michael Waters, the author of The Other Olympians.
But first, let's take a break.
We're about to get jocular.
Jockstraps, we are super excited because we actually did our first version of our, a jocular book club. And we all read the book, The Other Olympians, Fascism, Queerness, and the Making of Modern Sports by the author Michael Waters, who just does such an absolutely beautiful job talking about queerness and transness and the Olympics and fascism.
Yeah.
And if you were like, okay, it's really cool you have a book club, but it'd be even cooler if you brought in the author, guess what, motherfuckers? We did.
We did.
Michael, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you so much
us
for having
today.
me. Truly an honor.
Can you tell the audience
It is an honor for you to for us to have you.
Truly.
Can you tell the audience what your pronouns are just before we get started?
Yeah, I use he, him pronouns.
He, him pronouns.
Yeah.
Love it. And we can also read your work on Slate.com, Atlantic, and we can get some other things to sprinkle in there after recording. And we'll add a little bio at the end.
Cool. Also, you don't need to add a bio. You can just say Michael Waters is the author of the book. It's
Okay, that's
Okay,
right.
great.
I just wanted to check.
No, we're going to add some compliments.
okay.
We're gonna say hotter than like you would expect for an author. Like kind of chic glasses, good.
Okay, that's
like,
huge.
cool haircut.
Well, okay, fine. I mean, if you're gonna insist, then
Yeah,
feel free to
it'll
add
be.
that.
We're doing a very cool like gay bio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah,
Great.
nothing
Perfect.
academic.
Great hair.
Editorial.
Well, this is very broad, and sometimes questions like this are hard. But can you tell us a bit about yourself and what led you to write this book?
So, as you may find out over the course of this, my background is much less in sports and much more in like queer history. And so, like I've always been really interested in sort of forgotten queer figures and communities. And like I think a fascinating thing about just like the queer past in general is that it's really easy to have this idea of queer history as, like it starts with Stonewall and then there's like this like sort of slow, gradual march towards progress. And before Stonewall, there was nothing. And obviously like the real story is way more interesting and kind of weird and unexpected. And so my book follows this Czech athlete named Zdeněk Koubek, who was assigned female at birth and played in women's sports for most of his life. And he was pretty high profile as far as the world of like Czech sports and I guess European sports go. In 1934, at the peak of his career, he won gold in the 800 meters at this event called the Women's World Games, which was like essentially a rival to the Olympics when the Olympics had incredibly few sports for women. So like at kind of the highest level of competition available to him, he won gold in 1934. The next year, he kind of steps away from sports for a bit and he decides to sort of like grapple with these questions he's had about himself for a long time. And at the end of 1935, he announces to the world that he's transitioning gender and going to be living as a man going forward. And yeah, I mean, he just becomes like a celebrity in a way that is really remarkable for the era. He's written about a ton by not just like Czech media, but also American media. Like the New York Post was obsessed with him. They just couldn't get enough of like photos of him, like before dates, photos of him shaving, stuff like that.
I was surprised by how many references you were able to get. Like I know that sounds silly, but you're right. Like you did such a good job of retrieving history that I was shocked while like reading and listening to the book. How prevalent this conversation actually was. Like I would not have thought that this conversation was happening in the 1930s about, mutable gender, mutable sex, transness in the way that it was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like fascinating when you look at an era like the 1930s, there was no like gay media in the 1930s. We're not like, we don't have our like top 10 like queer celebrities list in 1936. But I do think when you get a little bit creative about your sourcing, like you do see those glimpses of people transitioning or wanting to transition. You do see these people asking about homosexuality, bisexuality. There's a lot there that I think is what makes this history so like rich and interesting.
Yeah, it's such a good narrative nonfiction story. And I think probably a lot of that came back from Koubek's like journey into being a public figure.
And can you tell us a little bit more about the other athletes that you came across too and how Koubek's story kind of intersected with their journeys?
Yeah, so I also followed this American sprinter named Helen Stevens, who is kind of forgotten today, but she was a really high-profile athlete in the 1930s. She won gold at the Berlin Olympics in 1936. She was kind of like our most famous athlete after Jesse Owens in that Olympics. And she was a queer woman. Like she was relatively open about it, not talking to the press about it, but she was openly dating women in high school and in college. And then she was also the source of a lot of sort of press anxieties around just like masculine women athletes. Literally as simple as like she had big biceps, but there was like a lot of fixation on her leading up to the Berlin Olympics. And then after she won gold, she was really her gender was literally questioned in I think a way that feels reminiscent of today. But you had like this Polish newspaper that wrote this article accusing her kind of absurdly of being a man. It's not even clear what they're trying to say.
I was surprised, and I think you did a good job with all the parallels. I was surprised at how little the arguments have changed. Once a woman is good at something, she must, in fact, be a man, and all of this, even the trans exclusionary language. I'm going to read a page of your book here. On page 90, you say, to hear Heinrich Himmler, the leader of the Nazi paramilitary group, the SS, tell it, the Nazi hostility toward queer communities stemmed out of a preoccupation with the national birth rate. Quote, all things which take place in the sexual sphere are not the private affair of the individual, but signify the life and death of the nation. Homosexuality and transsexuality were soon conflated with abortion, all being enemies of natalism. So if I were going to walk away from your book with one thing, I am absolutely shouldn't be so shocked, but am shocked by how strongly the modern Republican Party's entire platform mirrors directly the fascist party's platform in the 1930s in a way that I think we have trouble addressing because it sounds really sensational to say things like that. Mm-hmm. But there, at every point in your book, when we're talking about somebody who is fighting against these athletes, it turns out that person usually becomes a fascist. Was there a moment in the book where you were like, how do you process that while you're writing this, that things really haven't changed much?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still processing it, honestly. Like, truly, I think on one hand, when like a lot of the conversation around Amani Khalif happened at the Olympics, on one hand, I'm not surprised. On the other hand, I'm like, this is literally what happened at so many different junctures in history, but it happened at the Berlin Olympics also in 1936. You know, like just the fact that like we are recycling these same arguments and kind of like learning lessons and then unlearning lessons is striking. Just that's not even changing. And I think that, yeah, I mean, I didn't go into this research expecting there to be this fascist connection. I mean, I really started this research just with his Zdeněk Kovac. Like, I was just interested in him and his celebrity. And then his story is wrapped up in the Olympics and this gender surveillance policy so broadly. And then it's also wrapped up in fascism and how this idea of like regulating who can play in sports is just sort of part of a fascist project and kind of always was. And I don't know, I mean, yeah, I'm still kind of processing it in real time, but I think it really makes sense that historically, just like all of these ideas of, you know, like limiting gender transition, trans people, abortion, like surveillance at the Olympics, like surveilling women's bodies and saying who is like feminine enough to compete. It really comes out of this idea that like we are like measuring people's bodies and what they can do with them. And yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of implications of that I haven't really worked through, and I hope others do. But I don't know. I think seeing the ways in which this pattern is playing out again is both depressing, but then also kind of helpful for giving language to like what is happening in real time around us and like how all of these things are interlinked, because they were interlinked before, I guess.
Yeah, because like you were saying, like with Imani Khalif, her story, like I think the right likes to say that there are so many like cis men wanting to like break into women's sports, when in reality, like you have kind of shared, and I don't think a lot of people know, that sex testing was something that was so like is in like so a part of the Olympics and continues to this day.
You did. I had a kind of bell ring in my head at a certain point when you talk on one of these beautiful pages about a week after meeting with Hitler, the Nazis passed the Enabling Act. And soon after that, the sports world follows suit with Hitler starts instituting a boycott of Jewish businesses, and the sports world expels Jews from all of the German clubs and teams. And when you see how many parallels there are between the expulsion of Jewish people at this time and the expulsion of trans people now, and the, you know, curtailing what we understand femininity to be and who gets to be a woman and all these things, the category that is obviously always untouched is white cis het men. And when reading your book, you realize how much like sports are part of this national identity, and that a lot of these exclusionary policies are about making sure that only certain people get to be their nation's heroes.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think, literally like the founder of the modern Olympics, this French guy named Pierre de Coubertin, like he would agree with that statement. He founded the modern Olympics in 1896. He explicitly said on many occasions that this was for white men, that he didn't see a place for women athletes. He barely acknowledged any athletes of color. He said many racist statements about athletes of color. And so I think like when you look at something like the Olympics, obviously you don't have to reproduce your history, but the founding of the Olympics itself was about white men specifically. And I guess like white men who fit like a gender normative idea of masculinity probably too. But yeah, I mean, they wanted to showcase only a certain group in the Olympics. And a lot of these policies have always been about, whether articulated that way or not, just like limiting who is, and like maybe slowly expanding who's allowed to fit that vision, but still really like limiting the scope of it. And so you see, I mean, really from the start of the Olympics, and you see this not just at the Olympics, but really in all sports, you see lots of anxieties about anyone who is not a white man who does well. And, like that's all just wrapped up in what eventually becomes these policies regulating gender, is like this idea of like, well, like if we let women compete in the Olympics, only masculine women will succeed. And we don't want that because we have to project this like notion of like white femininity or something. Like that is interconnected with this idea of let's actually like inspect people's bodies and say who gets to be a woman. And yeah, I mean, I think these movements are so much more intertwined than you hear about like in a lot of these conversations. I mean, these policies that like today are basically excluding trans women from most Olympic sports, limiting the ability of intersex women and other cis women from competing. I mean, they are like connected to this idea that just like women in general like shouldn't be playing sports. And so like all of these are like the same thing. And when you have a policy that's set on excluding like trans women, it's also, I mean, I really think as we saw at this Olympics, it also like puts a lot more scrutiny on cis women too. And that's just because of really how the Olympics was founded. And yeah, I don't know. When you were like saying that, I was just like, yeah, Pierre de Coubertin would like agree with you,
Yeah, I feel like since we've just like the Olympics had their closing ceremony, I feel like people just want to remember all the positive sides and try to depoliticize something that is like radioactively political. And so with that said, like, what do you hope readers take away from the Other Olympians?
I mean, I think that like I am not, like I said, I mean, I'm like a queer historian. I'm not the most knowledgeable about like sports or sports policy. So I'm like not a person who would be able to set better policies other than just generally saying like we need to like include people in these sports.
But
I do really hope,
yeah.
right. But I do hope that this work, I mean, in my ideal world is like in conversation with advocates, like I didn't write this history like specifically with the idea in mind of like talking about sex testing policy. It just kind of happened. And I do hope that like this provides some kind of context for these conversations, potentially just like ammunition for like sort of how we can really easily discredit, fear mongering around Amani Khalif, but really around any athlete. And I mean, I don't know if that will happen, but I certainly like, I think my ideal outcome is just like people who are dedicated to making more inclusive sports policy. I hope that like they find something meaningful in this. It's also okay if not, as long as we like get the better policy passed.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. Well, I know we have gotten that out of reading the Other.
And that's what counts.
That's really all that matters.
Katie, I don't know if you wanted to ask I didn't want to end before you asked your question.
Oh, yes, I do have a question. How tall are you? No, I was thinking about how we begin kind of with, or at least how I heard it and read it, we begin with Kobach, and I feel like we get Helen Stevens later on in the book, and there's this interesting thing where, Kobach felt like he was trans, but he had a transition to be able to marry a woman. And then you see someone like Helen Stevens who is cis and queer, and this idea of somebody like Kobach distancing himself from queerness to live this very like cis het life, and then just that evolution into I don't know how to word what I'm saying, but there is you said it well.
You have a delicious little quote on page 153.
Yeah.
It is undeniable that Kobek's medical care and his social standing depended on convincing the public that he had always been masculine, that he was only ever interested in women. In other words, that he was not a threat to the era's sex paradigm.
Yeah.
And I like your question a lot, Katie, because I was fascinated by how much queerness and transness could not be in the same space. Like these policies really had the effect of kind of stripping those communities from each other so that they could both survive.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's I hadn't thought about it exactly on those terms, but I think it's a good observation. And I don't know, I just think in general, like there was just like so like for someone like Kobek, and it's hard to know this because we really don't have that many stories of people transitioning gender in the 1930s. It's, like we have plenty of references to it in newspapers, but not that many people who like laid out their story in full the way Kobek did. But I just wonder I wonder how much Kobek is an anomaly here just because he was so high profile for a period of time. Certainly not an anomaly in the sense of to get medical care as like a trans, like someone who would probably identify as trans today, you would you probably would have to be white. You would probably have to be like straight. You probably would have to like emphasize these really like normative aspects about you. But I think the way in which he's an anomaly potentially is just because he was so high profile and because continuing to be visible after transitioning like just would have made him a threat. Would have put him at risk, not made him a threat. But and then like you see in Kobek's story, like he's transitioning in the late 1930s in what was then Czechoslovakia, and then by the end of the 1930s, the Nazis take over. And so like I think there's something really strategic there. And like if you were that high profile and you have the ability to hide or just like not talk about your history, like it just makes perfect sense. It's like your life depends on it. But I do think like there are glimpses of queer community in global cities in this era where I think there is more like connection between people transitioning gender and like someone like Helen Stevens who's attracted to other women. I think we're still finding out, like also the thing is we're still finding out these histories in real time. So it's like, I'm just not even totally sure. It's just hard to be a public queer person in that era. And I don't know. It's just like Kobek transitioned at kind of at the end of a heyday for queer people, like the 1920s. If you've ever seen Cabaret, the 1920s were kind of wild for gay people, and like he's transitioning at the end of that and at the start of this fascist moment. And I just think like anyone who would be recognizably queer in that moment would want to kind of hide.
Yeah, what is due to survival? What is due to internalized homophobia, internalized transphobia? It's just really fascinating how we will so many times do the most we can to align ourselves with
with the oppressor.
Yeah. Like, I swear I'm on your team. I swear to God, here I am. Now, that's not what Kobek was doing, but I see it. I can see it within myself at times. We do the best we can to get in line, unfortunately.
For sure.
I loved this book, and I'm asking selfishly, what's next? Are you working on anything else? Are you taking a big vacation? Are you never going to write again? Was this so irritating to do? Tell me everything.
Literally today I was trying to figure out what's next, so I'll just leave it TBD for now.
That's okay. You just wrote a book.
You did just write a book, but maybe a screenplay of Kobek's life?
I think someone else should do it,
Okay, yes. Twist my arm. We will do it.
He has to go on a vacation.
Please.
Where there is one last question that we do ask all of our guests.
Yeah.
And are you familiar with the sport power slapping?
I am. I read one article about it.
Okay,
I am
great.
familiar.
Well, we're not going to quiz you about the regulations of it, but we would like to know, who would you like to be power slapped by?
Oh, and is that like
It can be in a total, like, I would like to be power slapped by Michelle Yeoh. in a sort
Oh.
And
Yeah.
I, Cherry Jones.
I've recently been thinking that it might be fun to be power slapped by Charlize Theron.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay. These are great answers. Well, I will just say that my head, when you said that, immediately went to Kate Blanchett. Just because.
An obvious.
obvious.
Clearly.
No,
She's
incredible
also-
choice.
She's also she's so iconic and so scary at the same time, depending on the role she's playing. And so I think it would not feel like I deserved it so much as like she's just a little acting out, but I also would tell everyone about it every day.
Are you
So I think that's like the
Blue
perfect middle
Jasmine
ground.
or like Tar?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
I'm thinking a little more Tar.
Yeah,
It's fresher.
Yeah, hot.
Yeah, I'm thinking Tar.
Yeah. Less mentally ill, a little bit more toxic.
Yeah.
If Lydia Tar slapped you in the face, like you would never stop talking about it, especially after she's canceled.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you're so right. But Michael, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us and also for sharing your wonderful book. Listeners, please pick it up. It is called The Other Olympians, written by Michael Waters. And I think this has given you enough of a teaser. You need to read the rest.
It's so good.
Oh, and we promised we'd give you a little bit of an extra outro. Readers, he's hot.
Yes.
Yes.
The haircut is good.
The haircut is so good.
The haircut is so good, and so their glasses.
The glasses are
I want to know where the
kind of-
glasses are from.
They're mid 80s, could be late 70s. There's something really hot about the whole thing.
Yeah.
We got a tank top going on, shredded.
Absolutely.
Michael,
Wow,
have
I didn't
Michael,
expect
have
to be
any of your
hyped
other
up.
interviews objectified you like this?
No, this is definitely the best one. I didn't expect to be so hyped up after this.
Well, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really been so much fun.
Jocular.
And we're back.
Before we get into our mailbag.
Which we are going to get into because you know I love the mailbag. We all love the mailbag. We have to talk about the closing ceremonies for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because we talked about the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, and it was one of the more bizarre things that I would say I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
The closing ceremonies made the opening ceremonies look so cohesive, so put together, so short. Okay. That closing ceremony, I don't know how I was looking at that little bar at the bottom of your screen, 3 hours.
Yeah.
Jesus
All
Christ.
one large theater piece of continents moving, everything taking so fucking long. All of the people, hundreds of people, 150 something people dressed up as mummies.
I didn't see it.
Okay, I did see it, so I feel like you're
So
pranking
this
me.
is really
No, okay, then I'm going to tell you this, and when you watch this, you will understand. You can fast forward through the whole thing. Let me tell you, I did not because I was like, no, I'm going to watch because soon something will happen. Hold on to your nuts. Nothing happens. There's like the beginning, there's characters where there's somebody dressed up as like, I think a flame, I don't fucking know, and doing really bad kind of Australian style like breakdancing
okay.
or
What is
breaking.
breaking?
and jumping from continent to continent, which are the continents are all set pieces on the stage. And then somehow they end up holding a flag of Greece because they're like, this is where the Olympics started.
Yeah.
Which is so also like sure, but like not really anymore. Not
Also,
like,
like,
not the modern Olympics, not really.
Old story told all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then I was so disappointed, and I really thought that France has kind of lost its grip on what's cool. That's how
On reality.
that's how bad it was. My partner said very dryly, I think they just lost their ability to call themselves the tastemaker of the world.
Wow.
And your partner is one of the nicest people in the world.
Yes, and so I told
Wow.
you she watched the open ceremonies in silence. She watched the closing ceremonies and said that. So now y'all will watch. You come back to me. You tell me how wrong or right I am.
I can't. Well, 'cause the only thing I saw were just stills of Tom Cruise. Mission Impossibly is. That's a verb. Mission Impossible.
Bleeding.
Blazing.
Impossibilation. Into the stadium, which makes sense.
In what way?
That it's coming to LA in a Hollywood way.
Coming to LA in a Hollywood way.
I honestly would have preferred like Harrison Ford, maybe like running with a boulder behind him. Like there are other Hollywood moments that I would have liked to see.
Yeah, I don't know if Harrison Ford can do that anymore.
Why not?
But I will say,
Why not?
Mayor
think
Karen Bass was there.
It would have been more American to see Pam Anderson gardening, no makeup.
I agree with that. Or very like, or Ina Garden coming down from the
was there?
ceiling and being like, "Where's Jeffrey?
Yeah.
Where's Jeffrey?
Where's
the Olympics
Jeffrey?
are coming to LA."
Store-bought Olympics will do, and then every gay in the crowd is like, yeah!
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw a brief part of the closing ceremonies, and it was just the band Phoenix,
Oh, yes.
a
yes.
band I like.
I do
Yeah.
too.
They're
Same.
great. Singing along with the people who sang the song from Drive, like the main song from Drive, you know?
Real human being.
The other one, the one that's like, I want to drive you.
No.
Harry.
And it was cool as hell. So, I mean, check that part out.
Well, I'm also like Phoenix, wonderful from a decade ago.
Or
I saw them in LA at that festival for old heads, and
Yes.
and they do a great job, and it was a strange choice.
Right? Like if we're coming into LA, give us like who's like chaperone or
Well,
like
Phoenix is French.
yeah, they're French.
oh they are.
And I imagine
Yeah.
so are the Drive singers.
But Vampire Weekend was there. Is Vampire Weekend French?
No, I think
No.
they're just friends.
I think
They seem like they're
French people can be friends too, Harry.
In what way? Okay. It's
look at our
time for the mailbag.
yeah.
Okay.
Mailbag, MAIL.
Hi, Jocular Pod. My question for you is, what are ways you are currently or hope to heal and get in touch with your younger self as a queer adult? This question was inspired by watching my partner, Emily, the sweetest of shout-outs, re-explore the world of sports as they enter their 30s as a way to reconnect with their younger self. And what a time to do that in such an incredible viewing opportunities for women and femme athletes around the world. I have seen them come alive with excitement and wonder in the process, and this podcast has absolutely been an incredible addition to their journey. Thank you all for using your voices and energy to provide such an important and healing content for all of us queers out there that are trying to figure out and live most authentically. And may this journey be only the beginning for you.
Oh
Much love, Kath, she, her. Yeah, I couldn't do the accent for that.
no, it's such a sweet.
Emily and Kath.
Kath,
We love you.
We love you.
We love you
We
both.
love and support you both. And that is such a sweet question.
You know, a thing that got me choked up reading the Other Olympians was after the fascists took over Germany. A lot of the bars that had formerly been lesbian bars turned themselves into sports bars so that they could stay lesbian and femme spaces, but so that they could kind of masquerade. And I thought about this podcast actually, and how the queer world and the sports world has been so beautifully intertwined, especially recently, and how lucky we are to get to be in a space with people while we get to talk about the things that we love. And I think one of the ways that I'm healing my inner self is by doing a podcast like this, because I remember when I was playing sports and I was closeted, and you know, even without having the language of feeling closeted or whatever, I was like trying to keep some things hidden. And I was trying to not, you know, be too gay or look too butch or seem too off to anybody else so that everybody else could be comfortable. And it made sports the space that was supposed to be wonderful. It made sports the space that was also very stressful to me. And now I'm out and I'm in the sports world, and the sports world in my life is the queerest part about my life. All of my athlete friends are queer, and you two are queer, and we're over here. Oh, wait, sorry. I just outed them. And we get to talk about queer athletes all the time. We get to talk about how hot these people are and how powerful they are. And so this podcast, being able to enjoy sports in a very openly queer way, is one of the ways that I am healing my younger self.
That was going to be my answer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just like getting to like even how this podcast started was like texting with the three of you and talking about sports. And like, I never got to do that before, really. And in a way that was so unabashedly queer, and in a way that was like, it felt like what I would have wanted to have done with my like high school friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like if I would have had the chance to, I would have absolutely loved to just like shoot the shit about who we thought was hot on the U.S. women's like basketball team or like, soccer team. And like, it does feel really very healing to get to do that with you too.
The redo.
It is a redo.
It is a redo. I mean, I've been very emotional lately, so yeah, I might cry. But I remember even just Fight You texting the two of us and feeling like, oh, I'm involved. I'm here. I'm doing this thing. And I feel like a long time, no matter who I was with, I was really trying to fit into a certain mold and do a certain thing in terms of femininity, in terms of my weight, in terms of my sexuality. And I just feel the older I get, the more looser I am sexually. No, the more I can't not. It's a disease. It's a disease. Got that. No, I just feel like the more relaxed I am, and I notice I am around my family, I'm more relaxed around everybody. And it does. It just feels like a beautiful way of making up for lost time.
Yeah. I would say like an extension of that too is like going to these sporting events.
Oh, yes.
Has been incredibly healing.
Yes.
And like to see that they are so queer and so loving and inclusive, and also that it's like growing in its popularity. Like it feels very healing.
And it's this always, chokes my little ass up, but it is an honor to in any way, further create space for you folks, jockstraps. I think that my favorite part about getting older is getting to like step into any space as like a remotely queer elder. And knowing that my priority is making sure that folks had spaces that I did not have. And I do think that we're doing that all the time here. And I do think that's something that we all feel proud of and gives us a lot of purpose. And so getting letters like these are genuinely my favorite part of the podcast right now. I love hearing from you guys. It fills my cup all the way up. And so thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Kath, and thank you, Em.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, wow. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
Follow us on Instagram. And it feels weird to follow that up with.
But it's where you find that you see jockstraps talking to each other in comments. Like that's where you go.
Oh, I'll follow it up. Fuck y'all.
Okay. Thank you for listening. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Jocular Pod.
We're all crying.
Please rate and review.
I'm sweating.
Only if it's 5 stars. If you guys give us 5 stars, it will help heal us.
Yeah. That's actually how we're
really
healing.
true.
Yeah.
If you give us 5 stars,
Ding dong, good point.
Good. And if we'll like it, we'll read it on the show.
jocularpod@gmail.com.
Email us.
5 stars. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Jocular is hosted by ER Fightmaster Tien Tran and Katie Kershaw. Jocular is a production of Hyperobject Industries with Metalark Media and was produced by Harry Nelson. Original music and theme are by Nick Gage and ER Fightmaster. Our executive producers are Claire Slaughter, Harry Nelson, Dan Libetard, and Adam McKay.